Chapter 12. War is imminent. Big Masai stopped talking and smacked her lips a few times. Child, go fetch me some water. This stuff always gives me the dry mouth. As Cush stood up, heading toward the kitchen, Big Ma smacked their lips again. Give me one of those big cups of ice-cold water. Don't bring me no lukewarm water. Cush replied, okay. As Cush returned, Big Ma, 25. Abooksigun just had his 16th birthday the last time we talked about him. All of a sudden, S25, sitting at the table drinking her water, Big Ma says, hold on, child, I'm all over the place since you asked me about your grandmother's name. Plus, they did more in their first 2 years there than a person can do in a lifetime. Your grandmother told me these stories, they are not in order, and you just need to know the important ones. He was almost 15 when he left. He was 16 when he went to the ghetto. Now S25. He only stayed there for 12 years before he left to go off-world. So how old was he then? Cush said, almost 27. Big Ma said, okay then. Now, before I can continue about Abooksigun, I have to go back a ways, again, to tell you about Wanyenyekevu's death because it's just as important. Big Ma took another sip of coffee. Kakaoya should have told you this story. Cush looked at Big Masai. No, Big Ma, I didn't mean it like that. Big Masai looked back at Cush. It don't matter what meaning you meant, she still should have told yo ass. She cut Cush a piece of cake and passed it to him. Well, as you remember, Wanyenyekevu was permitted to see his parents. All his children were in Ireland except for Yala and Danaya. His children in Ireland returned to visit Arizona while they waited for Jayla's battalion to complete her duties for that month. They had a little celebration themselves. Afterward, they all headed down to Lake Providence and surprised his mother and father. Everyone went down there, Friedrich, Daniel, and the 12. They spent an entire month there, and everyone from Lake Providence to Tallulah celebrated his homecoming, their family reunion. People from Delhi, Newelton, Thomastown, and as far south as Waterproof, Louisiana, all participated in the celebration, even those who didn't believe started to believe in Sabaoth because they knew Wanyenyekevu and the 12 were the ones who got rid of the Abenians. After returning, many traveled to and from the surrounding areas and decided to stay. 10 years had passed, and Wanyenyekevu thought of his son Abooksigun and was saddened that he would never see him again. That same night as he slept, he dreamt he saw Abooksigun. He called out, Abooksigun? He heard his son's voice for the first time in over 11 years. Pops, how did you get here? Wanyenyekevu ran to him and cried, son, I missed you. Looking around, where are we, son? Abooksigun smiled, this is New York, and we're at war with. How did you get here? Wanyenyekevu and Abooksigun talked for hours, so it seemed, about their adventures. Wanyenyekevu spoke about his trip to Ireland, and Abooksigun talked about his adventures in New York and all he had accomplished. Pops, Abooksigun asked, how did you do it? These people are selfish. Some believe in Sabaoth, and others don't. I cannot tell which is which. It is confusing at times. Before Wanyenyekevu could answer, Mletsi and Msika appeared before them. You shall find out at this moment, for you shall receive a twofold spirit of your father. We allowed you to speak to each other for one last time. For Wanyenyekevu's time has come to an end and shall be taken with us, for one must die to receive the gifts of the other. It is your turn to take the reign. Abooksigun, you shall be taken from here and sent off-world where many lights shall shine, but because of your father's decision, a generation shall have no light, but that light, you, shall be taken to another where Sabaoth needs you. There is no need to learn his gifts, for when it is passed on to you, you shall see and feel all that he has since his enlightenment, and you shall know of his gifts like breathing. Not only his gift, but you shall inherit his wisdom, knowledge, and his understanding. Afterward, your grandson shall carry the torch and open up the hearts of many living in darkness, the last true light to shine on this earth. Mletsi and Messia walked toward Wanyenyekevu, my faithful servant. Welcome home, for you have fought a great fight and worry not about your family, for they shall be comforted by your loss. You are truly sleeping but at peace with us. Wanyenyekevu walked away, and Abooksigun shouted, Pops, Wanyenyekevu turned, and Abooksigun shouted, I love you, with tears in his eyes. Wanyenyekevu shouted back, I'm proud of you, son, and I love you too. He vanished. Big Ma had tears in her eyes as she continued. Wanyenyekevu died in his sleep that night with a smile on his face because he talked to Abooksigun before moving on to glory, and Abooksigun received his gift twofold. People came from all over the world to celebrate his funeral. His wife, Queen, ruled for a little over a year before she passed, and Yala and Danaya ruled together. Big Ma sighed, okay, now that's out of the way. What I'm about to tell you happened over the last couple of years. Abooksigun was in New York. Fazioni. They are not in order, but I do know that they happened around the time Wanyenyekevu was traveling and enjoying his family in Tallulah. As you know, the men were enlightened, and Abooksigun trained the people in Poing de Die, setting up a 24-hour perimeter watch around Titre. The Dirty 30 each had their own battalion of warriors that they supervised and kept watch throughout the day, rotating locations every 2 hours so they wouldn't become bored and careless with their duties. Bobo became a well-liked friend for everyone enlightened, but those who identified him because he would growl them. Abooksigun trained those enlightened from the prison, the quarters, and even General Abo. Now called Abavanan. All believers lived in Titre, and non-believers lived in the ghetto, but they worked together for food and shelter and lived together, somewhat in harmony. Many non-believers soon believed when they saw what Sabaoth was doing. Abavanan was gifted with invisibility, Yamar had the gift to speak to animals, and his twin brother, Jamar, had the power to communicate with insects. Ambassa was gifted with flight, Bemnet was gifted with the ability to breathe underwater, Biruk with sight, Dayan with hearing, and Desta, Lami, Makonnen, and Menelik were also speedsters. Abooksigun's kinsman, Aitan, after his enlightenment, formed powerful legs of metal. Blackenhound, believe it or not, was enlightened with the gift of emulation. The gifts of pure and applied mathematics, engineering, physics, and science were also great gifts among the people. She smiled, Sanka. Cush said, Sanka. Big Ma smiled, yeah, Sanka. He was a kind-hearted man I met back when your grandmother came here. He told me he was once a non-believer. Sanka had gone home after a hard day's work and just started gathering his belongings, and his oldest brother asked, why are you going to the other side? We are Buddhist. And Sanka said, one thing I've learned is that all wisdom comes from Sabaoth, no matter who quoted them. And Buddha never gave Stati Uniti this. He reached his hand forward, and electricity shot out of his hands. Usain stood there in awe as Sanka said, all uno ed tudo was believe. Not travel to some far country, or beat myself across my back 50 times. Just to believe. So yes, I'm going to the other side. Days later, Usain and their youngest brother, Yendi, also converted. You never met him because he died when your father was 8. Sanka was Papa Jack. Not only Sanka's brothers but, as I said before, many others were converted and joined Abooksigun. You hungry? Big Masai asks as he gets up and heads to the kitchen. Cush replied, no, I'm good, but thanks. Big Masai returns with a larger plate. Here we go, smothered ham hocks, wheat rice, and something to chance it with. Cush looked at the plate, I'm hungry now. Big Masai grabbed a plate underneath hers and divided the food. I thought you would be after I brought my plate. They both ate and sat there for a second before Big Masai said, good eating, no. Okay, now Ole Abavanan and headed south to Atlanta, Georgia, but returned a few months later. He landed his sky craft. He rushed to find Abooksigun before grabbing an earpiece from a nearby warrior and calling on his earpiece, Abooksigun. They've just called for CS3-12. Abooksigun and Dung rushed to Abavanan, a strange look of confusion painted on Abooksigun's face. CS3-12? What is that? Abavanan explains, laws and actions were put in place whenever they encountered problems with the Wakatilians. They don't need you guys anymore. Anyway, E.R.S. or Abenian rule systems are laws and rules governing your people, and 619 is by poisoning the water system. They will do so tomorrow night, half of the ghetto to the prison. Abooksigun became infuriated. The motherfuckers have to pay for this, and I'm tired of being Mr. Nice Guy. He stood there thinking before saying, well, it's apparent that they don't know that the people from the prison or the quarters are here with us. Do you have any ideas on how to stop them? Abavanan said, yes, the major would have a map of the infrastructure's watering system just like the old tunnel system, and we can reroute the water system somewhere else. But it would help if you had the old paper blueprints and the digital version to get a clearer picture of what is needed, because this system was here before the Abenians came. The thing is, it has to be done manually. Abooksigun said aloud, reroute the poison to the anacondas that live west of us. And if possible, back to the computans also. Abavanan insisted on staying until all was safe. Go back to your family. We appreciate you, but got it from here. Abooksigun said. Abavanan hesitantly agreed. As you were speaking, I couldn't help but think about something I meant to tell you. We were training, and the people in the ghetto were acting a fool, and since you had so much gone on, I told myself I would tell you later that the waste system never needed your people. It was just general maintenance. The water from the Great Lakes is on a timer that releases hundreds of gallons of water into the system periodically, and their services were just for amusement to the people. What? Abooksigun said in anger, and a thought came to him. The water from the Great Lakes can be used as a weapon with the sands. Abooksigun asks, is there anything else you can think of before you go that you might have forgotten to tell me? He stood there momentarily. Oh, yeah, there was a war right before you came here. The Abenians left and started talking about making outfits made from flexible nanorobotic aramid fiber integrated with waist suits. A bulletproof vest of some sort. I have no idea if that's important to you, but I meant to tell you that too. Abooksigun demanded an emergency meeting for everyone from T3 to the ghetto. He stood on top of the house with a loudspeaker. For centuries, we have been looked upon as animals and treated as villains. I call you here to remind you that the situation has not changed for Stati Uniti here or anywhere else. The lies they tell and the death of our people always follow. They said we were friends during 9/11, but they quickly changed their minds. Sabaoth saw their two-face, so the coronavirus panic of 2019 happened, followed by the monkeypox outbreak of 2022 and the famine of 2023. They wanted to be our brothers and sisters again, but as soon as all was clear, their hatred and greed for money and power resurfaced. Hypocrites and backstabbers. Yes, back then and even now, all those anacondas and computants needed to see were their women in distress and crying, especially the crying part. If they see the cries of their women, all hell will break loose. Rosewood, Tulsa Race Massacre, and let's not forget about Emmett Till. What about the 70-year lie that police officers told about a 14-year-old? The youngest person to be sentenced and executed, George Stinney Jr., during his trial, up until the day of his execution, he carried his Torah, claiming his innocence of killing two white girls. The trial lasted only 2 hours by an all-white jury. Even his parents were threatened, prevented from being present in the courtroom, and eventually expelled from the city. Before his execution, he spent 81 days in prison without being able to see his parents or lawyer. Abooksigun paused as his anger grew. Oscarville, Georgia, Cowaliga or Benson, Alabama, the Seneca Village in New York City, Susanna, Alabama, and Vanport, Oregon. These are just a few of the names out of the 200 Wakatilians towns and communities established in this country that were erased off the American map, not by burning them down but by flooding them underwater. Some called them drowned towns. Oscarville, in Forsyth County, Georgia, is now known as Lake Lanier. A white mob burned down this town after 3 Wakatilians men were accused of rape. Rob Edwards, Ernest Knox, and Oscar Daniel were arrested after being accused of raping and killing a young white woman. 1,000 Wakatilians were killed, and the rest were forced out of their homes. Lake Lanier was named after a Confederate soldier, Sidney Lanier. What about Vanport? A temporary housing project and the answer to Portland's housing shortage, also known as Vanport City or Kaiserville. Look, the town of Benson became Lake Martin, and surprisingly the Wakatilians' town of Susanna was flooded by Lake Martin. Abooksigun shook his head and paused again. This meeting is nothing to do with believing or not believing in Sabaoth, and it's not even about a history lesson. This meeting is about our lives. They are going to poison our watering system and kill all of us. It has been ordered to kill half of the ghetto and everyone in prison. Little do they know that those plus only have rotten, decaying bodies of their own. We are called to fight for our life and a fight they shall get, but we must fight like Nat Turner, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Sunniali, and Mekatilili Mensa. Many of you never heard of Sunniali of Mekatilili Mensa. But Mekatilili Mensa was a prophetess and fearless warrior who led her people, the Giriama, to rebel against the British. She is remembered mainly for slapping the hell out of a British colonial administrator after a disagreement over their policies and attempts to subdue them. She was also called the Mother of Resistance, and she was a distinguished, vocal, and fearless leader who defended her people's rights. A Kenyan heroine that fought and rebelled against the colonial invaders who were stealing fertile lands from the people, collecting taxes, and banning mnazi, the local brew palm wine. She boldly told her oppressors, "I am not afraid to speak the truth and fight for my people. My powers come from Kaya, rooted in the spirits of our ancestors." She used the Kifudu dance, similar to our kata, to mobilize the people to resist the colonial government. Her followers swore an oath to fight for their community and lands. She was captured twice by the white men and detained in Kisii, Kenya, but escaped after 5 years. The second time in Somalia, she also escaped and continued her fight for freedom. Sunni Ali was the Songhai emperor who went to war, conquering the surrounding national groups around the former Mali Empire. The Mali Empire was falling, and groups like Mossi, Fulbe, and Wolof were the first to rebel against the Mali Empire but failed. Sunni Ali built up and trained the Songhai cavalry first before trying to conquer the kingdom. That is why he succeeded, and we shall take his examples and defeat our enemies. You can read about Sunni Ali in the Tariq al-Fatah Short Chronicles of the Seeker. Enough of that. My point is simple, they can't knock the nose off of Sabaoth like they did in Egypt. They wanna fight. They have won cause I see that war is imminent. My plan is a 3-part solution to their evilness. 1. Reverse the poison. 2. Back up their waste stations. And 3. Create our own water infiltration system. With all the speedsters and gifts we have at our disposal, we will reverse the poison back to the computans and Anakatas, destroy the waste stations, and let that sewage back up into the bubble. At the same time, I need the dirty to see Dung and me about our plans tonight to correct this situation. It's been far too long since they have held us down. In every nationality, race, and creed, the men are the providers, have the education, and are the ruler of their households, except the Valcatilians. They gave women dominion over our men. They gave the women higher education while our men died in prison. Tell me why the Anakatas and even the Abenians put Wakatilians women over the Wakatilians men for centuries. Think about it is all I'm going to say. Abooksigun had finally calmed down. Listen, my beloved people, forgive me for getting so riled up. I'm sick of reading, adding, and thinking about how they continue to use us and throw us away like we are tissue. Anyone who has ever raised animals before mates the biggest and the strongest animals with their brothers or sisters to produce a healthier stock. After years they would have the best of the best. Slave farmers are where the terms like motherfucker come from. They mated children with their parents, some were blindfolded, but many knew who they were sleeping with. The adults did. We are the descendants of those people, we were those animals for 400 years, and it took 200 years to get out of the animal mentality we learned from slavery. Our moral compass was lost. Uncles and brothers were raping sisters, nieces, and even daughters. One can only imagine the orgies that our families were forced to, even why many of our males and females took to prostitution after slavery ended, feeling like that was all they were good for. Dung touched Abooksigun's shoulder, seeing the tears flowing, and whispered, "I got it from here, brother." As Abooksigun passed Old One, he stood there smiling at him. "You know you talk too damn much, don't ya?" Abooksigun smiled as Dung continued, "This has always been a sensitive matter for my brother. Listen up. Where we are from, they combined their gifts and formed even more powerful weapons against the Abenians. We shall train and use the old slaves' quarters as a training area and target practice. I don't care how long it takes. So, gather your weapons and tools and meet us at the entrance of T3 and make haste. Our sole purpose today is that poison and water infiltration system. Tomorrow, the waste plants. The people were divided, half on the water infiltration system and the rest on rerouting the old water pipes in Great South Bay. Using their gift to conceal their presence, they forwarded the watering lines making the input, output, and vice versa. They then cut off their old water lines miles away from the computing system and created their infiltration system offshore of the train station. Most of the work had to be done underwater, but they completed the mission that night. They all returned home, where the women prepared an enormous feast they had never seen, and the people sat down and talked civilized among each other for the time since they had been there. Abooksigun smiled. It pleases me to see you all talk as one. Please don't stop what you're doing, just listen. Eat, get some rest, and first thing in the morning, Black and Hound and my men will go to White Mountain National Forest to the main processing plant up north since it is heavily guarded. The rest of you divide yourself with warriors and speedsters, and let's do the same thing tomorrow with each waste station. Big Masai had a smile on her face, got excited, grabbed her shoebox, and rolled her a cigarette. The non-believers marveled at the things they saw, and many more became believers that night. Children at very young ages were gifted and worked by their side. She took a drag and slowly exhaled. We gonna let this marinate, okay? She leaned back in her chair. Day breaks, and it is 7 di mattina. Cash sees Big Masai getting relaxed and smiles as she continues. Before Abooksigun and Black and Hound made it to the main station at White Mountain, the men at the other waste stations called and confirmed they had completed their mission and were headed back to T3. Down smiles and looks at Abooksigun. This is really going to be a shitty situation. Abooksigun laughs. Once there, Black and Hound gathers his men to meet up with Abooksigun. The two discuss they will infiltrate the guards at the human waste plant. With a serious face, Black and Hound says, I'll take 10 men to each side of the plant and strategically place them in positions. Once we got them into place, their jobs will be to screw with the wires, hindering the waste from leaving, causing an investigative team to check it out to see what's wrong. Abooksigun interjects. That's all well and good, Hound, but what about this? He shows Black and Hound his sand tongue around his neck. It caused Black Hound to step back. Old one told me about that. But I'm curious how you got a hold of that. Abooksigun stares at him curiously. Do you know what this is? Black and Hound said, all I know, it is death to the Computans and the Abenians. Abooksigun shook his head. So, you know where I am going with this? Black Hound smiles. Put it into the waste facilities and let the Abenians and Computans where it is make up to their demise. Black and Hound cackles. We can still use the same strategy. 10 men on each side of the plant. All will be acting as slaves, moving the waste. All we need is one person from each group to deposit a deposit from the sand into the waste that holds that filth. Abooksigun shakes his head. No, only me and Dung hold our sands, and the only way to take it is for that person to give it to you. Try and take it. Black and Hound grabbed the sand, and it didn't move. Abooksigun continued, however, you can wipe it on your weapons and put it on your body like lotion. The Abenians and humans mostly fear it well. It doesn't do much to humans, yet. Taken aback, Black and Hound is saddened. Then this will defeat the plan. If only the two of you possess it. Abooksigun tilted his head to one side. Not necessarily, Hound. All we need is one well-placed drop. We need access to the processing area where the waste is put into this moving container. The central location where it all starts and ends. Black and Hound looks at Abooksigun. Amazement. What you suggest, Prince? You gonna put everyone in danger, including yourself, with only a 1% chance of winning. As he continues, an evil smile crawls around Black and Hound's face. I like it. Let's do it. I'll have my men start a distraction outside the plant. That way, you and Dung can take what precious time you have to deposit the contents and hopefully kill every last one of those body-snatching invading bastards. Abooksigun says, let's go. The group of men parted ways. Deabre and the twins walk up to Abooksigun. Deabre eyes follow Black and Hound as he walks away with his men. You can stop drooling, Deabre. It's becoming obvious. Akun Simbel mocks while laughing to herself. Stop it, Akun. Twin tells her. Deabre eyes Akun Simbel to tell her that she doesn't appreciate the sly comments. Akun Simbel stares back at Deabre challengingly, saying, What, Anu? I am only stating the obvious. Pissed off, Deabre replies, of which I care for your opinion. Why? She snaps. Akun Simbel chuckles some more. Akutukananu be come sa annoyed with both of them, you all stop it. This is not the time nor the place. But Akun Simbel continues to heckle Deabre. You didn't get none, did you, Bre? Triggered, Deabre turns around to face Akun Simbel. The younger twin stands their ground. Oh Bre, you bad now, oh? Akutukananu comes in between the two of them. Hey! He said stop it. Enough of this. What has gotten into you two? Shaking his head in disgust, Abooksigun said, cut it out. No infighting or I'll take all of you out. Bre, find your mind. And Akun Simbel likewise. This is a war, and we need all hands on deck. And the man eat. Get into your positions. Akutukananu darkens the sky and manipulates the elements. Abooksigun is giving out orders and organizing all of his soldiers. Akan, go with dung and prepare the sound waves. Bre, I need you with me. Can you do this? Old One told me you are having trouble controlling your powers. Right now, you are critical to our mission, and this mess. Between you and the twins will wait for another time. Get your mind right. Come on. Abooksigun walks off as Deabre feels betrayed by Old One. Shocked, she lowers her head and then looks up in rage. However, she stifles her anger for now and follows Abooksigun orders. The group changes into work clothes except for Deabre. She's in an officer uniform, posing as one of the male officers. Old One, Abooksigun, Akun Simbel, Dang, and Deabre huddle together behind the facility. Akutukananu takes to the skies and causes clouds to form, blocking the sun. Bre, remember. You have to go through this back door and sound the fire alarm, Abooksigun tells her. It will clear out all the guards from this area, so we up. At that moment, alarms sounded, and the men rushed to their skycrafts, taking off in a hurry, leaving Deabre hiding behind the doors. What the hell? Dang said. Abooksigun's men looked at each other in confusion. What time is it? Old One smiled. Oh, okay. It's mezzogiorno e 15. They all said in unison, de poison. Abooksigun smiled. Well, Bre, we got our distraction. They're gone. The men rushed in and configured the system. Abooksigun and Dung poured the sand, and the rest strategically set up C4 charges around the facility, knowing that a man had stayed behind at the main terminal. They made it through the building unnoticed until Old One set the last and final C4 with the detonator at the main terminal door when the man heard them talking. The detonator was pushed and pitched between the door and the wall, and they heard a loud click. Old One quickly took control of the man's mind and froze him at the door. Once that door is released, the C4 will go off. Quickly, you have to leave once that button is released. It will blow. I can hold him frozen in time, but you all must go and go now. The man was confused. How are you doing this to me? And what the fuck are you, Katie's doing here? Abooksigun said to the man, it's amazing how you, Anakatas, feel so entitled to ask so many questions even in the sight of danger. You act as if we are supposed to drop what we are doing and answer y'all silly ass. After centuries of doing this, do you even know why you feel this way? Do you even know why you hate us? My people saved your people from extinction, and you repay my people with your mind games and manipulation. The man did not say a word. Abooksigun smiled. You don't have to answer me and my men, the man said, my men and me. Abooksigun felt insulted and replied, what? The soldier said, the correct way is, my men and me. Abooksigun asked, did you understand what I said when I said it? And the man said, yes. Abooksigun then said, I know all languages, and communication is basically about understanding someone. Don't come here with the worst language on this planet to understand and try to correct me. That's another thing with Ypsilonol, thinking you are perfect in everything but dumb as hell. When it comes to understanding simple logic to deal with others, your language, English, is not perfect. Dung tapped Abooksigun on the shoulder, and Old One just looked at him, saying, talk almighty, if you don't hurry up and get your ass out of here, damn. Abooksigun smiled. One last thing, Evil will tell you the truth and wrap it all up in a lie. Old One just shook his head. If you don't get yo ass out of here, he handed Dung his knife and said, take this and remember not only me but my people, my clan. Abooksigun refused to give up on the way to save Old One but was left with no choice but to leave. The speedsters, Rana and Daffets, quickly took everyone by twos as far as possible and returned to get Dung and Abooksigun. You guys far enough? Abooksigun Old One over their erpies. Abooksigun answered, I believe so. Old One said, y'all sing me my favorite song, No Weapon by that Fred Hammond guy? With tears in their eyes, Abooksigun sang, No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. Old One looked up as they sang, Sabaoth is truly able. You brought that young-ass kid my way years ago, and never in my life would I think I would be taking orders from a kid. An annoying, loudmouth, love-talking ass kid, who had to endure all that shit from all of our crazy asses. Patience, calm, considerate, and understanding, basically, what I'm saying, Lord, forgive me of my sins against you, forgive me of my ways, for I see now I have sinned against you. I'm sorry. Thank you for being so patient with my dumbass. Msleech appeared to him, Old One, mighty steel makers of the earth, you were found without favor in Sabaoth's eyes. I kame tu forgive dose vu were undeserving. I spared your life from damnation because I saw your pain. Because I have felt your pain, saw your anguish, because I too felt yours and many others, but because of your selflessness, this day, your name has been restored in the Lamb's Book of Life and your name back to its original form. Ashoga, come and join me with your wife and children, even your clansmen, and see them forever, my child. Old One released the man, and the entire factory blew up. Before Dung and Abooksigun had finished the song, they heard the explosion.